Bros and Sweet Talk. We have our lovely host,
Mia.
Jay.
And I'm Sean.
Today we have a very lovely co-host with us today, Tamyra Gray, my cousin. Welcome to Bros and Sweet Talk. And this evening we are going to be talking about everything multiple sclerosis. As you know, I was diagnosed last year, and I will let you go ahead and introduce yourself and go into anything that you want to start off with, Tamyra.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I'm very, very excited to have this conversation with you guys. I actually haven't talked about it much with anyone aside from family and friends. So I'm excited to share, my experience and, the good, the bad, and everything in between. I was diagnosed in 2006, 6 months before my wedding.
I was going to say, because when we went to Vegas, you were kind of coming off of a flare, or you were having a flare when we threw her bachelorette party in Vegas.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember. What were some of the symptoms, or how did
I had been having these terrible migraines, like consecutively. And I was really, really tired. I was sleeping all the time. And diabetes runs in my family. So the first thing I thought was I have diabetes or I'm pregnant, because I was sleeping so much. And that was one of the symptoms of pregnancy. So when I took a test, it came up negative, and the headaches never went away. And I started to, I was having like the kind of migraines that you would, vomit with. Ooh. So I finally went to my doctor and I said, I'd like, something's going on. I can't get rid of these headaches. I've tried all the migraine medicine. Medication doesn't really work on me. And I said, I think maybe I'm diabetic, because that runs in my family. I'd like to get tested. And he said, well, I'm a little less concerned about you being diabetic and more concerned with something going on in your brain. So I'd like to run some tests. I'd like you to go get an MRI, and we'll find out, what's happening inside of your brain. Mm-hmm. So I went and I got the MRI, and prior to getting the MRI, I think my legs were going a bit. And that wasn't like, I was tired. I had just started my career. I was working a lot. So, I just thought, I'm tired. So, my body's just malfunctioning a little bit. So my MRI results come back, and he pulls me into his office and he says, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you have multiple sclerosis. And I was a little confused, because it was the furthest thing from my mind, and I was at this appointment by myself. So there was nobody there with me when the information came through. And I have one cousin on, now two, but one cousin on my mother's side who has multiple sclerosis, who is now, he's got a very, very progressive form of it. And he's now living in at that time also, he was living in assisted living. So my mind went to the farthest reaches of what could go wrong with having MS, as opposed to thinking of
the bad part. He has progressive?
He has the most progressive you could possibly have.
So there's different forms of MS. There's
relapsing remitting.
There's SPMS, which is
secondary progressive.
And then there is progressive MS, where I can't remember. I actually posted this guy this month. I can't remember his name, but Indian guy. He actually did a documentary on his experience with progressive MS and how he went from a cane to a walker and then to a wheelchair, and he won an Oscar for it a few years ago. So there's different forms and impacts people in different ways.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so with you ladies, going through this, since you both have MS, can you tell our viewers of like the symptoms, or how it makes you feel? Because a lot of people don't know with the side effects or the effects of MS. So can you ladies please explain to our viewers of how it affects you in different type of ways?
Absolutely. Well, for me, I was diagnosed last year, and I kind of had your same experience, Tamyra, where MS or any sort of chronic illness, that was like the furthest from my mind of having something that seriously wrong with me. But for the past 4 years, I've struggled with so many orthopedic issues. First, I tore my Achilles. After my Achilles, I started having issues with my right knee on the other side. Turns out I tore my meniscus. Then I started, and then one morning I went to get out of bed, and I nearly, well, I did. I fell to the floor, and I had to crawl to the bathroom because my foot was in so much debilitating pain. Went to an ortho. Oh, he's like, oh, it's a bunion, which I don't have bad feet. So he's like, yeah, I mean, it's a slight one, but it's enough where this is what's causing your pain. So he's a doctor, right? I was like, okay, well, all right. He's like, only thing that's going to correct it. He gave me some physical therapy that didn't work. He's like, the only way really to resolve it now is we have to go in and fix it. So June, I had my knee repaired for my meniscus. September, I had my foot surgery, and everything just deteriorated after that foot surgery to the point where I could hardly walk. And the physical therapist that I was going to, he's like, something else is going on, because then at that point, my back had started hurting really bad. I was, limping, holding on walls to walk. I was losing my balance, and I was just in so much pain, which I didn't know at the time. I was in the middle of a flare. I was in the middle of having an MS episode. That is what was wrong with me. So in January, I went to another doctor for him to give me a second opinion on my back. He had the same, he said the same thing as the first ortho. There's nothing there that would be causing you these issues, but it sounds like you have some sort of nerve issue somewhere. Go back to your ortho, get them to look at your hip. Okay. So I did that. And if it was not for that doctor, I probably still would not know what was wrong with me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I went through all of my different surgeries with him, all of my different problems. And he says, I'm gonna give you a prescription to go get an MRI on your hip, because you might have, a nerve or something that's messed up in your hip. He said, but in addition to that, he's like, you've had so much going on. I want you to go to a neurologist. I was like, okay, fine. So I went to a neurologist. I was able to get an appointment the very next day with somebody else, because I'm like, this is it. I'm tired of being in so much pain, not being able to move. Like, it's just debilitating my life. Like, my life has to revolve around, okay, how far am I going to have to walk from the car to the door? And wherever I'm going, are they going to have a chair? Am I going to be able to sit down? And I'm like, at the time, 39 years old, I'm like, this is no way to live. I need to figure out what is going on. So he saved me. The doctor's name is Dr. Nigel Azar at Anderson Clinic here in Arlington. So he sent me to a neurologist. I really wasn't thinking too much when I went to a neurologist, but I gave them all of my different symptoms. They did a whole workup. And she says, well, I'm going to order an MRI for your thoracic spine and your cervical spine. Mm-hmm. She says, maybe you have a nerve issue going on there. I said, okay. So she gets ready to leave the room. And I said to her, I said, well, before you leave, do you think this could be something like Parkinson's or MS, or, because I had done so much research with all of the different symptoms that I had been experiencing. I had to ask the doctor that. She's like, oh, I don't think so, but let me add a brain MRI just in case. Mm-hmm. So she did that. So I had all the MRIs on my hip, my thoracic, my cervical, and my brain. And that Monday after my scans, the ortho for my hip calls back. And he says, oh, Mrs. Sweet, he goes, I'm actually shocked you're even walking. He's like, you're tough. He said, you have a severely torn labrum. He's like, you're basically walking around with your labrum completely away from the bone. And so I was like,
wow.
oh, I'm like, thank God, finally, I know what's wrong.
Right.
Yes, it's going to mean a 4th surgery in 4 years, but guess what? Finally, I'm going to feel good. I'm going to be able to get back to myself. The very next day was the appointment to follow up with the neurologist. I honestly was not going to go because, you know, the doctor called me the day before to tell me that my hip was messed up. But I said, you know, I did all these tests and everything. Let me just go. And same thing like you, Tamyra. I get there. The doctor walks me back. That now that I think about it, I should have thought about it a little bit harder when she was the one that came to get me. She was the one to walk me back. It wasn't like the nurse or her assistant. It was the doctor. So I walk back and sit down. I'm not thinking, you know, I'm even dressed because I'm gonna go to work right after. I'm just coming here. She gonna tell me nothing's wrong. And I'm gonna go to work and go on about my business because I already know my hip's torn. She says, I'm sorry, Miss Sweet, but all your MRIs have come back and you have MS. You have multiple sclerosis. And, you know, I had known for the years that Tamyra had, you know, multiple sclerosis, but you don't quite know the feeling until you're actually in it. And I think that's the biggest thing with awareness is I've kind of taken on this mindset where I think it's also healing for me, but I also want other, especially people in our community, to know that it can happen to us. And here are the symptoms, because there are, you know, talking about illnesses and stuff like that in our community. It's like, no, we don't want to do that. But people need to be aware because it could really save somebody the years of going through pain when they just need to go get checked. You know, there's wonderful drugs on the market now for MS that can slow it down, and yeah, so.
But not necessarily cured, though, right?
No.
Oh, it's not curable. You have it forever.
It's my symptoms. I have relapsing. I was diagnosed with relapsing remitting, and no 2 people with MS have the exact same symptoms. So it's not something you could say, oh, you have this, you have that. You definitely have multiple sclerosis. One of the big things that happened to me is my body overheats. I've lost my ability to talk. I've lost my ability to focus my eyes. I overheated so bad in one episode where my aunt thought that I had a stroke because the way my feet, I've never had a stroke, but apparently my feet were curving in and I couldn't walk. I needed help, but I had basically passed out. And I was, you know, you watch those movies. There used to be this movie called Serpent in the Rainbow that I was terrified of when I was a kid because he was alive, but he was buried, but he was still conscious in his mind. So that was what was happening to me. I had passed out. I was fully conscious of everything that was going on in the room, but I couldn't move. I couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't say, help, something's wrong. My brother was slapping me on the face and I could feel him slapping me. And he was like, come on, Tamyra, wake up, get up. I couldn't get up. But I could hear all the commotion that was going on around me. My dad comes in, grabs me, calls my husband. My husband wasn't there at the time. And he had been used to what happens when my body overheats. So he was able to tell them, go put her in a cold shower. She'll come to, but you've got to cool her down. She's overheating. So they put me in the sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's all right. They put me in the shower and then I came to, but I came to without a voice. So when I started to talk, and it was unbeknownst to me that I didn't have a voice at this time. So when I went to talk, it came out like, yeah, no, yeah, no, you know, and that's how I was talking. And I didn't know how long this was going to last. because everyone's exacerbations is what they're called technically when you have a flare or you're having an episode, and they last as long as they're going to last, and you kind of, as you get, as you adjust to your particular condition, you're able to determine, for me now, I'm able to spot the signs and symptoms for when I'm going into an overheating situation. But in the very beginning, when my legs would fail me, I would just hold on to my fiance at the time, and just kind of keep pushing through. But apparently, it was something that I had was in the 10th grade, because I remember being a cheerleader, and just one day out of the blue, my legs just decided they weren't going to work the way they used to. I couldn't run without collapsing. It's like I felt like I was running, but I wasn't. And so it's a very tricky, moody kind of condition, as no two people experience the same things. And you learn to have a proper dialogue with your body throughout your experience with the condition.
Yeah. And for me, I used to love taking hot showers, but that is one of my triggers now. It was a few months ago. I went to take a bath, and I love taking hot baths. And it was so bad. I was in the tub for maybe like 3 or 4 minutes, and kind of like you, Tamyra, how you overheat and you could feel your body just going out of whack. And so that happened to me. I had to get out of the tub, and I got out of the tub, and it was like I was crawling to get out, and I was laying on the floor, and I have like the stone tile in my kitchen, in my bathroom. I literally crawled to my refrigerator, opened up the freezer. I have these ice packs that they say you should keep around to kind of cool your body down. And I just laid on the floor, and I had to put them on me and get myself to calm down. And that's one of the things that the physical therapist told me. He's like, you have to watch for some triggers, because some people, where me and Tamyra might be, heat isn't good for us. Some people are the opposite, where the cold isn't good for them. The cold triggers them. It just depends. And that's where it's every two people are not the same.
And so that goes along with seasons as well, whether it's summer or winter, that can trigger it as well, and not necessarily.
I think as you get more comfortable, and I use the word comfortable, because it's like you have a new body that you have to learn, how it works, what its mechanisms are. And I don't sweat. So that's one of the reasons why heat is a problem, because usually one's internal thermometer, once you start to get hot, you start to sweat, and you sweat profusely, and the sweat cools your body down. So you don't have to think about overheating. I can be in heat. I actually learned through Bikram. So, where they say to avoid the heat, I went to the heat, and I forced my body to learn how to sweat. And the only way it would sweat is if I sat in that humid room doing the routines. And then it allowed my body access to some healing mechanisms that I could use for myself, because I don't take the medication, the MS medication, because my body builds immunity to medication very fast. And so when I was diagnosed, my husband actually asked the doctor, what are you going to do when her body builds an immunity to this medication? I was taking Copaxone at the time. And he said, I've never heard of that happening. It's probably not going to happen. And my husband said, okay, I understand that. But what are you going to do when it happens? Because I'm letting you know, I've watched her, it's going to happen. And it happened. I was in the emergency room on a Christmas Eve one year I'd given myself my injection, and I broke out in hives all over. And so after that, that instilled fear in me, because the other medications at the time gave you the flu every weekend. So it was like, either give yourself a shot every day in a different location. You had to pick, there were 7 locations on your body. You can never do it in the same spot twice in a row because you risk getting muscle atrophy. So I had to, I was just like, I don't want the flu symptoms every weekend. I don't want to be sick every couple of days if I do the other one. So I'm going to try some natural alternatives. And so that's how I started with the Bikram. And they had suggested I not do Bikram because of the overheating aspect of it. But I discovered that allowing my body to sweat actually calmed down my stress and helped the energy in my nerves move more freely through my body. And so for me, it's not a seasons aren't triggers for me. I can tell when my body's going inward, when I start to get too hot. And one of the things are, my focus and my attention starts to go, and it kind of, if you think of warp speeds, like from video games, and they always have that like little bullseye thing that's going in the spiral, in a spiral fashion. That's kind of what it feels like inside of me. It's like all of a sudden I'm leaving present moment awareness and I'm being sucked inside, and being taken out of where I'm at. So I know to manage my stress, and I know to try to balance, things a lot better than I did, say, in the beginning when my exacerbations were more frequent.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get to that point myself.
And you will. It's a process. MS is, if you approach MS from a battlefield aspect, all you're doing is creating more internal stress for yourself, which means that your body is now attacking itself. Because the thing about MS is that your immune system is attacking the myelin sheath, which is the protective covering of your nerves. So if you think of a vacuum cleaner cord running, what happens when you run over that vacuum cleaner cord? It starts to shred the latex, the rubber that's around it. That's what happens in our body with MS, is that it starts to, it frays the protective sheath, the myelin sheath that's covering our nerves, and our nerves become exposed and they frazzle, they're misfiring all over the place.
It's like a broken GPS, like it's trying to wake things up. You're telling it to do certain things, but because the nerves aren't firing the way that they are supposed to, it's like you're telling it to go straight, but it's taking you to the right. So yeah, it's definitely an adjustment for me in learning my body, especially being diagnosed in the middle of a pandemic. But for me, they think I've had it for years too, and I can kind of think back to things that have happened over the years, like being clumsy and falling and tripping over nothing. And but they put me on Tysabri, which is a once a month infusion, and I haven't had any issues with it, and it's supposed to be one of the best MS drugs. So I'm hoping that it works for me. So yeah.
So I have a two-part question for you ladies. So with you ladies having MS, with the COVID vaccines, would it affect any symptoms? Like, how would it trigger, or can you guys get the vaccine? Like, how does that work?
Well, for me, my neurologist at this time does not want me to get the vaccine. There's not enough information on how it will impact a person with MS that's on Tysabri, and because I just started the medication like 7 months ago, if there were any adverse reactions to the vaccine, it would kind of mess up the 7 months of me being on the medication and them trying to get me to come out of an exacerbation that I'm going through. So it could trigger another one. So until there's a little bit more information, and I guess, I go through a few more monthly infusions, she doesn't want me to get it right now. When she says I can, I will, but right now I can't. She told me I couldn't.
My getting the vaccine has nothing to do with my MS. It has to do with the fact that I am pregnant, and there haven't been any trials done on pregnant women. with the vaccine. And I don't particularly want to be that guinea pig, or, I have my own things that I'm worrying about, with the baby, and I don't want the baby to be the guinea pig either, So I've just decided that it's just not for me at this moment in time. And it took a lot to come to that decision, because had I not been pregnant, I would have gone for the vaccine, because again, our two cases of MS are different, and I'm not doing the infusions, and mine aren't I've been in remittance for a while now, and so when my flares do happen, they're shortened. So I don't feel that same threat to my immune system, as Mia, would, and understandably so. But yeah, so that's the only reason why I wouldn't do the vaccine at the moment.
Okay, with you being pregnant and you having a severe case of MS, tell us, like, how do you feel? Like, how are you managing all this and still being the strong person that you are?
Well, I don't have severe. Mine is like, so this is what my doctor said to me when I was diagnosed. He was like, if you're gonna have it, you want to have the one that you have. And nobody wants to hear that, period. Like, you don't want to have it. There's no good form. Mine is not consistent. So relapsing, remitting means it comes and it goes, and how it comes with me, or I think mostly in general, is with my stress. Like, I honestly, stress is such a big trigger on our immune systems as a whole, even for people who don't have multiple sclerosis. It is such a toxin to our systems. It completely disrupts the balance, and we all go into whatever our natural responses to stress and anxiety are. So the interesting thing about MS and pregnancy is that it does happen to go away while you're pregnant, because your body focuses 100% on that baby. So whatever stuff you might have going on at that time, it'll take a pause so that the baby takes priority and precedence in the body. And the other side of that is, after delivery, it can come back hard and with a vengeance. That happened with my first, and it happened, and we dealt with it. I would lose my legs frequently. I would lose my ability to communicate frequently. And there's this one moment in memory in my mind. My daughter was 2 years old and I couldn't walk. And she grabbed one of my legs with my husband and she said, "Come on, mommy, come on." And we were putting her to the bed. And she was like, "Come on, mommy, let's go." And she was holding my leg and walking it with me.
Good. Yeah, it's therapeutic for me.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course.
Because I've called you many days, not in like this. So I think one of the biggest things for me is mentally having to deal with it and being diagnosed in the middle of a pandemic by myself. That was one of the biggest reasons why I got my dog, because I'm like, I'm not out and meeting people and seeing people and just in this 700 square foot apartment by myself all day. I needed that comfort, having something or someone there. So she's kind of done that for me. But Tamyra knows I've had many days of tears. So,
and and that's okay, because the thing, as you learn, the tears are a form of the acceptance and the anger and the seeking to understand why your body isn't working the way you're used to it working, and frustration is natural. It's you have a brand new body, the body that you knew and that was yours, that you thought was because you had all these torn muscles. It was your body communicating to you that there was a deeper issue going on, and as time progresses, you'll start to have a dialogue with your body, and you'll start to get more comfortable with what's going on, you know,
Yeah.
and the tears will be less frequent, you know,
Yeah.
but the tears are a natural progression, because there were plenty for me too,
Yeah.
you know,
So-
plenty.
What Tamyra's talking about, I guess, was it last week that I had a breakdown? Or was it the week before? I can't remember. But right now, where I am physically, one, having had hip surgery, it's taken me a lot longer to recover, and some days my legs just don't work. And so I went to take my dog for a walk, and I only take her around the building, and last week I could only take her halfway, and it took all that I had to make it halfway, to get back in the building, to get upstairs, because like the way that it feels with MS sometimes, like your legs, it feels like you're dragging a 400-pound leg behind you, that you're trying to move it, and it's just not firing the way that you normally, you normally being able to walk and just, I saw this quote by Richard Pryor. He said, when you when it gets to a point in life where you can't use your legs like you normally do, you start looking at life a lot differently. You start taking a look closer at your life and looking at things a lot differently. And a type of little shit that isn't that important, you get to a point where you can just, okay, that's nothing compared to the fight that I have to do on a daily basis with my body. So it's just going to take some time.
Communication, we're used to our body being on automatic. You don't have to think about breathing. You don't have to think about walking. Once you learn how to walk, you don't have to think about it anymore. You just expect it to happen. MS breaks down those systems. So the normal conversation that would happen between the synapses of our nerves, they don't happen that way anymore. So the communication to your leg to say, hey, take that next step, just went the other way. You know,
right.
And so
it's like the broken GPS. It's like you're looking for a GPS to go a certain way, and your leg is going the total opposite way of what you want it to do. So, yeah.
But it does get easier. It will get easier. Sorry.
With this being MS Awareness Month, and we see on your social media platform that you've been every day, and you've just been posting different actors, whoever, like people with MS, and giving us awareness of their conditions and how they reacted to as well. I mean, do you think that's actually giving people awareness of MS and making sure that go get checked and make sure that,
He private messaged me, and he said, I want you to know that you are very inspiring. I've been having similar issues going on, and been trying to figure out what's going on with my body. He's like, do you mind sharing, the doctor that you go see? So the initial doctor that diagnosed me, I don't go to them anymore. With MS, you really need to find a really good neurologist that specializes in MS. That's their thing. And so I ended up switching to a doctor at Georgetown. And so the guy messaged me, and he said, would you mind sharing her information? He goes, I'm a 41-year-old man, and I just had a kid a few years ago. He's like, but things are changing in my body, and I can't do the things that I used to do. He's like, and I know something is wrong. He's like, I just want answers. And I said, here's her information. Her name is Dr. Amajad. She is, whenever I reach out to her, I might send her a message tonight at 9:00. She will respond to me tomorrow, especially if you're having some sort of flare or issue going on. I can reach out to her anytime and she'll respond to me. So quite a few people actually have reached out to me, but that's the one that really sticks out, is him, because he actually asked for my doctor's information, and he's like, I'm really gonna, start digging into trying to figure out what's wrong. And I told him, don't wait and don't be afraid. It might not be anything as serious as MS, but you want to make sure you go to a doctor that is going to take the steps to figure out what is wrong with you. And that's been my issue, is I had doctors just scooting me to this one, to this one, to this one, until the hip ortho that said, something's not right. You need to go to a neurologist. So yeah, I think, Sean, to answer your question, I know I went on a rant, but yes, I definitely think it's been impactful to a lot of people, especially people of color, because MS is not very, I don't think a lot of people in our community know about the illness. So being able to bring light to that so people can understand. And also I'm looking also for people to start having a little bit more empathy for other people that they might not necessarily know is going through something, but maybe this will give them the thought that, okay, maybe I shouldn't be as hard as I'm being on this person, or get as frustrated as I'm getting for some issue that's very small, that's minuscule, right? So yeah, to answer your question, I think it is helping.
It's nice for me to, I've known of some of the people who you've mentioned, but I haven't known of all of them. So it's nice to be able to also be like, oh, because it gives hope to those who do have it, just in like, who are feeling like, I might not be able to continue on doing, some of the more physical
Yeah, well,
things
that's
that
like
I do with my life.
That's Jennifer Holliday, or you. I mean,
Yeah.
you were on Broadway, you were in Rent, and you had these strenuous. Now that I look back and I now know how I felt, I don't know how the hell you did that. Seriously, have any of you guys seen Rent?
No.
No. Oh my God! I'm gonna have to
No.
culture
I
y'all.
I saw American Idol, but
No, so
yeah, I didn't know I had it during Idol.
no.
But Rent, or even, I'm trying to think, was Rent or Bombay Dreams more strenuous? I think it was Rent.
Rent by far. I injured myself in Rent.
Oh wow.
No, it's, I've again, I had to take a very active role in, as and figuring out, I was on the I did a hyperbaric chamber every week. I was on a very strict supplement diet. I got vitamin infusions weekly. My doctor adjusted a whole lot of things that I was eating. One of the things that she had shared with me at the time was that they've found that people who have MS have low vitamin D levels.
Mm-hmm.
So I got on a higher dose of vitamin D, and I did everything to fortify my body to keep me in that role, because it was so physical. And probably the most physical thing I've ever done since high school, since track and cheerleading. And I didn't want my body to be the dictator as to what I can and can't do. So, right. There was a great medical facility in New York that I went to called Patients Medical. And I had this fantastic doctor, she's no longer there, who just created this amazing regimen for me. And I did it every single week. And then I was sad because when I left New York after my injury, they didn't have it in California. So I couldn't continue. Vitamin therapy wasn't as cool as it is now. Nobody was doing infusions that you could just call up and be like, hey, can you come to my house? I need a vitamin C drip. And I was having a really difficult time maintaining what I had in New York, which was phenomenal. And so, again, like you said, Mia, my doctor here, my neurologist that I was seeing was at UCLA, and he specialized in MS. It's just that my case, and I'm sure it's different now with all the new medications that are available, But then it was just like, I can't, I can't try something else and see, or wait to see if my body accepts it or rejects it.
Right. And that's why I love my new doctor, because the neuro that diagnosed me, hot mess. He started talking so a female diagnosed me. She didn't specialize in MS. So she sent me to the head neurologist of their practice, and he was an asshole. Oh, his bedside manner was horrible. Like, just the day before I was diagnosed. So obviously I'm coming in there, I'm very emotional. I was really thankful my sister went with me to the appointment, and I was just sobbing. And when he pulled up the images of my back, and, I pretty much had a lesion on every single vertebrae of my thoracic, 3 on my neck, and then I had 1 on my brain. So, then I'm sobbing, and he's talking medicine. Oh, we need to get you on, I think you've had it for years. We need to get, his bedside manner was absolutely horrible. So that was another reason why I ended up going to Georgetown and switching. But one thing that I love about her is, like you said, the vitamin D. She put me on a vitamin regimen too. Vitamin D daily, 5,000 for the first year, she had me on 10,000 units a day, because my vitamin D level was like at a 9, and a normal low range is 30, right? I was at 9. So she put me on 10,000 units a day. And the last time we checked my vitamin D level, I was up to 73. She put me on omega 3s. What else? B vitamins daily. Trying to think, does she put me on anything else? Vitamin C. I take that daily too. Yeah. So she didn't just, her focus wasn't just drugs. It was, these are the sort of things that a person should be taking anyway daily, especially right now with COVID and us being in the house and not outside as much. Vitamin D deficiencies in the African American community are a real thing, and they can be indicative of so many different issues. But knowing that, and even sharing, us sharing this information now, even if you don't have MS, this is something that us in the Black community, we need to start getting more focused on our health and preventing diseases and things happening. So, well, with that, I think we've had a wonderful conversation today, and it was so good to see your beautiful face and share your time and your thoughts and everything with us, and your experience with MS so far. It's very courageous of you, because I know it's not something that you've spoken about publicly before, and we're very appreciative that you came to our platform and talked about it.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. It was my pleasure. I enjoyed the conversation as well, and I'm looking forward to all the bright days ahead for you.
Thank you, and I love you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Before we leave, do you want to tell the audience just one last thing of just the importance of MS, or like just, leave a ending message on a good note?
Yeah.
If you are concerned that something is happening, and don't be afraid to seek out answers. I think that's the overall thing that her and I, both have touched upon, and that we understood that something was wrong, and we weren't getting the answers that we wanted. And so we kept at it until we found a specialist who was willing to dig deeper. Our bodies are our own. They're our responsibility. We get one in this life, and it's up to us that we use our vessel. We use it anyway, but that we take care of our vessel, and that we give it the proper love, nutrients, self-care, and attention that it desires. And if you feel that you're shutting down, that your body isn't doing what it used to do, then there is probably something deeper going on. And, something deeper could just be, you have to meditate, and you've got to, tackle your stress levels, or, decrease your workload. You know, we're in this era of self-care, and self-care is real, you know,
Right.
because society isn't slowing down. It's getting faster and faster. And we're demanding of ourselves to be like computers, but we're human beings. And human beings can break down. And so take care of yourself, look after yourself, and give yourself the best love that you can.
Yeah, that's very good advice. You've always been good with words and suggestions. So thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Love you.
Bye. Love you, darling.
Hi, my name is Lindra, and I was diagnosed with MS in June of 2015 at the age of 35. My first episode was so undeniable that I was forced to seek help. I, like many of us, didn't pay attention to the small things that could have led to an earlier diagnosis. I had many of the classic symptoms, including severe fatigue, numbness on my right side, inability to walk even short distances, and some cognitive decline. Once I finally did visit the neurologist, I was ordered multiple MRIs, blood work, and even had a spinal tap. Not the most comfortable thing, but my neurologist wanted to make sure, absolutely sure, that there was nothing else that could be causing the issues that I was having. Once I did receive my diagnosis, I took on the mindset that I would be fine. I told my family about my diagnosis, but I assured them that I would be fine. And I would get through my episodes and stay positive. With time and medication, I am now at a point that I no longer have to think about MS as a part of my daily life. And I push myself to continue to learn more and pursue new heights. So I have MS, but MS does not have me.
Hi, my name is Mary Davis, and I'm 39. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in November of 2017. Who would have ever thought that I would be turning 40 in a couple months and also saying that I have MS? Yes, it's been a little difficult, but I've been able to push forward. I have a great support system and loving family and friends. I just continue to try to keep myself self-motivated. That has been one of the most beneficial things that I could do for myself. I started my Tasabri treatments during the COVID-19 pandemic, and yes, that was a little difficult. But through it all, I just continue to remind myself that yes, I may have multiple sclerosis, but multiple sclerosis definitely does not have me.
My name is Allison Huggins, and I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 1999. But as I look back, I probably had symptoms maybe 2 or 3 years before then. I am now 53 years old. I still work every day. I still try to do the things that I need to do. I may move a little slower, but I try to continue and do the things that I need to do. One thing that this disease has taught me is to have strength and continue to move forward. And don't let this disease stop you, because it's different in everyone. My symptoms are different from anybody else's, but we still have to move forward in whatever it is that you need to do. My strength comes from my child. I have one son. Comes from my husband. They all support me in the things that I need to do, but I do have to take care of myself to move forward. And I appreciate you all listening. Thank you. Be blessed.
Hi, my name is Sweet. I'm 46 and I was diagnosed at the age of 30. When I first learned about multiple sclerosis, I've never heard of it, so I had to do my own research. I didn't quite understand it until I went to support group meetings. There I learned that everyone was different. Some of the experiences were not like mine and vice versa. I had my share of ups and downs, depression, memory loss, overactive bladder, balance and cognitive issues. I know I was able to get through these using the support that I had, such as my faith, I prayed a lot, my family for the support I needed, doctors and meds to help slow down the disability, and my cane to help me walk. I know that the combination of all these resources helped me to live a decent, sometimes crazy life.
Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Golden. I'm 42 years old and I have multiple sclerosis. I was diagnosed in January of 2012, and my diagnosis came after several rounds of different tests, blood tests, MRIs. I actually had to go to the rheumatologist because they thought I might have lupus. And it wasn't until I had a spinal tap, which in my opinion is worse than childbirth, that they confirmed I had MS. So these last 9 years have been more on the mild side for me, and I'm knocking on wood. So I'm not currently on treatment. I take a large dose of vitamin D once a week. I take B12. I take biotin. I get MRIs done. At one point it was every 6 months. Now it's annually. But my doctor has made a point to tell me that her threshold to put me on treatment is very low. So I'm thankful, but mindful and cognizant that at any point in time, my progression could be much worse in terms of my disease, or I could have some severe episodes. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tanya. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when I was 37 years old on September 28, 2017. The diagnosis came as a surprise to me and my family because I never had symptoms of MS until I had a fall at work a few months prior to that. The fall at work made me have right-sided weakness. So ultimately, I saw a neurologist and he wanted me to get an MRI and some labs done. And those labs and that MRI showed that I had multiple sclerosis. So definitely a complete shocker and surprise to us. 4 days later though, my husband was diagnosed with MS as well. His was not a surprise because he had symptoms 3 or 4 years prior to that, and the symptoms were MS-like. So his diagnosis was more expected than mine. But with MS, it's not just me and my husband that are dealing with it. With God, me and my husband, MS is totally doable. We deal with it every day. I look at the words MS as standing as mystery solved. It's already written. It just hasn't been given to us yet, but it's already gonna happen. I just can't say when. So I stay strong with my family support and my friends and God at the center of my circle. I continue to live life, and I work as a nurse practitioner every day. So I don't look at this as a life-ending diagnosis. It was life-altering, and I'm gonna continue to live it every day. So everyone, stay safe out there, stay blessed, and it's been good talking to you. Bye.
My name is Sierra. I'm 29. I was diagnosed with MS when I was 28. So last year, I would say MS has definitely humbled me. It lets me know how strong I am and to be more present and take in the beautiful moments that I do have despite the bad days, because there are a lot of bad days with MS. It's just, you never know. It definitely makes me want to make people more aware, bring more awareness, especially to the Black and brown communities. You know, when something's wrong, go to the doctor, be more aware of your body, because disease knows no age. And, you know, I would just say, you know, be more aware, be healthy, and definitely be strong.
Hello, my name is Darshell Morgan, and I was diagnosed in 2012. I am a wife, a mother of 2. MS for me was different, eye-opener, because I've never heard of it until now, and I still don't really know what it is pretty much, but I do know that it is different, and different amongst us Black people. I didn't know it was a difference between the two, white and Black, until my neurologist had explained to me briefly that it changes, or not even just changes, it works differently or it operates differently amongst us people. One thing I do know is I have my good days and bad days, probably more better than not, and I'm very, very exhausted, and fatigue is just part of my life. To really understand what the word fatigue means, but you know, I still count it all joy. I retired, not retired, because I'm a mom, so Mom is 24/7. Wife is 24/7. I did quit my job. Walking has been a little enabling. Sometimes I do drive. Sometimes, but it's just very, very trying. And I'm learning every day because it can be so much worse. And I'm still thankful because I am above ground and I am mobile opposed to not. And that is okay. I still count it all joy because the Lord woke me up opposed to laying me all the way down. One thing I do stand on, two things actually, faith and trust in God, because if I didn't have it, I don't know what would this life that I lead would be. In a great support system, whether it's friends or family. It's nice to know that I am loved by others.